Like, I was so depressed at that time, but those are some of the best memories that I have from that time. You know what I mean?
Hello, my name's Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories that they created there, and the people that they used to know. So sometimes I feel a little bit dumb, or maybe dumb's not the right word, maybe it's more sheepish about some of the revelations that I have through doing this show, especially since we're almost at 200 episodes now, and I feel like, I should know all there is to know about the queer experience and nightclubbing, but I don't. And maybe that's actually a good thing, because the fact that I'm still learning so much is part of the reason that I'm so excited to continue doing this and to continue to share these stories with you. And this week, the thing that resonated with me the most is this idea that when things in your life are at their absolute worst, and you know what it's like when you're in that headspace where you don't even really want to leave the house. Somehow, this is the time when being in a sweaty nightclub is actually the most thrilling and the most fulfilling, which doesn't make sense, but there you go. And the person that helped me make this revelation this week is the comedian and podcaster Sheria Mattis, who sat down with me to talk about rock and roller skate, which was a night in New York City in the mid-noughties. So the thing that I really took from this conversation is that reminder that in those times when things have felt really difficult and knotty and hard, being out has helped to shock my senses, and it's been the best way for me to recalibrate. So thank you so much to Sheria for that reminder. Oh, and I should say, before we get going, if you don't already know who she is, you should probably Google Rachel Maddow, because, well, we talk about her quite a lot, and it's useful to have a mental image of her when you hear her name mentioned. Right, shall we get into it? So we're going back to the mid-noughties, right?
Yeah, when I was only 2.
When you were only 2.
Yeah,
okay.
I was just a toddler.
Yeah, all right. So this is going to be a story of lots of inappropriate
I know.
Clubbing,
Me as
right?
a toddler, I was wild. Out there.
Okay. All right, well, I'm just going to go with this. I'm just going to pretend you were a toddler in the mid-noughties.
Yes.
And that you were going roller skating at Rock and Roller Skate.
Yeah.
And I should really emphasize that because it's not and, it's Rock Roller Skate.
Yes.
So, it's legit. So, why did you want to talk about rock roller skate?
Because when I think, just when, you told me about, the basis of the podcast, this is the first thing that I thought about. Because when I think about, when I want to go out, and I'm like, what would I want to do? It's that, and it doesn't exist anymore. It's exactly that. That is exactly what I want to do. Also, I have great memories from there. I was so depressed at that time, but those are some of the best memories that I have from that time. You know what I mean? And it wasn't a thing that happened every single night. It wasn't available every night. It was an event space thing that would only open a few times a month. Right? So it was very special. So how are so many of my memories from that time centered around there? I saw so many cool bands there. I discovered cool bands there. I took dates there when I was really, I had just come out. And I had just really started, yes. And I was out on the town.
So, wait, okay. We should probably stop pretending that you were a toddler.
Yeah, okay, fine. What about one of those, look who's talking toddlers, right? One of those...
who was going on dates. I think
Fair
that's
enough.
going to get a bit weird.
Fine. No, okay, fine. I was 16. I was out here. I was wilding. I was
Oh,
16.
well, okay. Were you 16?
Yeah, I was 16.
Okay, all right. So you were
I
16?
was 16. Yes, I really was 16. I had just left boarding school. It was like 16, 17. 16, 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this coming out then.
I had come out already at boarding school, right? I had just sort of like was exploring my sexuality and like just had a little bit of a heartbreak and just kind of accepted it, right? I just
What
kind
was
of,
the heartbreak like? A longing for someone who didn't want you, or did
yeah,
you
and
actually
then
get it
who
on at
was
boarding
playing
school?
games with me, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. I kind of put myself into it. I was, you're dumb. You're obsessed with somebody.
That's how you learn.
You do,
Yeah.
you learn, right? But I hadn't, like, you know what I mean? I think I was still, like, not quite defining my sexuality. I just knew that I liked girls. I knew that I wanted to date girls. And I knew that I wanted to date girls that looked like Rachel Maddow. Like, I knew that's it. That's all I
Okay.
knew.
It's a bit niche, yeah.
And so when I came back to New York, especially for, like, that summer, that was, like, a lot of, what I was doing. And I was like...
That was a lot of what you were doing. What, you chasing women who looked like Rachel Maddow? Is that what
Yes, exactly that. Very that. Very that. They either looked like Rachel Maddow or Young M.A. So that's what I did. That's what I did. And I was like kind of going full force into it because I just kind of left. Boarding school was pretty traumatic. So I just kind of left and was like, I'm going to have some fun, right? I think that's kind of where my thought process was. And I really did have fun. And like at the time... Like, I had a fake ID, you know what I mean? You get a fake ID, you can do whatever you want at that time. I spent like $100 on a fake ID, and it got me everywhere.
And did you have like a different name and different details, or was it you, but just with a different date of birth?
No, it was me, my information, except a different date of birth. Like, they weren't scanning IDs and stuff like that like they do now, I don't think. Like, it was just a dude that looked at it and then let you in, right?
And so how long did you take to memorize your fake date of birth, just in case anyone asked?
I don't think I even bothered to, but I did at first. When I first used it, yes, I did. But like, I don't think I really cared after, because nobody checked, really. Nobody checked. I got a fake ID because I was the most anal among my friends and wanted to make sure that I got in. You know what I mean?
Oh, and everyone else just waltzed in.
You just walk in. You just walk in. You look cool and you walk in. Nobody cared. It wasn't great, but like, and a lot of these spaces were like just a loft, right? It was just a loft. So nobody was really checking IDs like that. It was just a big loft. They would sell beer, you know what I mean? They'd sell, what was the beer of choice for the hipsters? That's what they used to call them, hipsters. Back then, what was that beer? It was terrible. I never drank it.
Do we not call them hipsters anymore?
No, I don't think the kids don't even know what that means anymore.
Oh.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Okay, I'll have to retire that word. Or say it ironically.
We're losing recipes. I personally loved the word hipster, but we're losing recipes.
But hang on, okay. We were talking about your coming out.
Yes.
So you were saying that at boarding school, you had this crush-like thing and your heart got broked.
Yes.
And then you were like kind of out, but not really out. Over the summer, did you come fully out, or were you still saying that you were experimenting?
Oh God, I don't remember. I don't really know, because it's like you sort of come out a little bit, right? You sort of come out to some people, and then you come out to some people. And I think with the girls that I was dating, I was like, yeah, I'm gay. I didn't want to complicate it, right? I'm gay. That's it, right? And the girls that I was like meeting, I'm gay, right? If I met new people, I would come out to them as that. But my old friends was like, yeah, I mean,
I'm just seeing what's happening.
I'm just, you know what I mean? Sexuality is a spectrum. You know what I mean? So, like, it wasn't really until, like, proper, like, junior year proper that I, like, was like, nah, I'm gay. I'm not playing this game no more. Like, that's when I, like, really, really came out.
Ah.
Yeah.
And then was it, like, to everyone, or
I mean, what's funny though is like I never really came out to my mother. She read my diary.
What?
Yeah. She read my diary when I was at boarding school and called me up screaming about blah blah blah, and we had it out. She was very upset. But then she got over it. She was fine after a while. She's Jamaican, so of course she was upset, but she eventually got over it. But yeah. And it was like, listen.
Okay. But what about you? Were you not upset that she read your diary?
Of course I was upset. But listen, it doesn't matter what I felt.
Oh, okay. You're just talking about it like, oh, yeah, of course. She just read my diary.
Yeah, that's sort of like a thing that she did. Like, that's why I stopped keeping diaries, is because she would read my diary a lot. Like, this is like a constant. But I had kept this one so under lock and key. I remember being like, how the fuck did she get it? I know I didn't leave it. I know, because I got home from the bus and I was looking all over for it. And I was like, there's no way I would have left it. I know I had it. And I think she like pulled some ninja. I think she was in a cat suit going under lasers.
And what was the passage that she read? Like, what did you say?
I don't know how much she read, but I know for sure. She like basically called me up and said, who is the girl's name? And you gay now? Oh, you're gay now? Like, it was like... Because I had a boyfriend or whatever. I'd had like a little boyfriend, like a little long distance boyfriend or whatever that she knew about. And so like, and then we broke up. Like, and she didn't know any of that was happening after, you know what I mean? And so I thought I was safe, quite frankly. I thought I was good. I thought the boyfriend was good enough. She did her research and she found out. She called me. She was crying. She was screaming, who is her? And like, what? So you guys send you up there and you're gay now? Da, da, da. Like, it was a whole thing. One time I had to deal with like a big terrifying bullying thing. And I was, I was threatening the administration with my mom coming to school. She came up with my mom's ex-boyfriend who was a lawyer. And so I was like, yeah, like, ooh, y'all gonna get it. And my mother basically halfway through broke down and just was like, and she's gay now. And like, that was the center of the, I was like, no, focus. She was very not, yeah. But she eventually, I think like, I was like 17. By then my depression had gotten so bad that she was like, listen, I don't even care if you're gay. Just be not this. Be less depressed. You could just do that. Will that help? You know what I mean? I think she regretted the way that she initially responded to it. But yeah, I know. Yeah.
So in that period between that, was it like she kind of accepted it but begrudgingly?
It was like we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
We just didn't talk about it. I was out there. I was getting dressed. She would literally, like, compliment my outfits before I went out to go on dates, right? So, like, she, you know what I mean? But, like, we just didn't talk about where I was going, who I was meeting. That's just what we didn't discuss. That was it.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh. Listen, Caribbean parenting is different.
Yeah, and it's better than, like, being thrown out, right? It's a bit awkward, but it's kind of all right.
Yeah, now it's like whatever. Now my mom is like, oh, just don't bring home no white women. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's it. Now my mother is
no.
fine.
Have you told her about Rachel Maddow?
I've gotten over my Rachel Maddow. You get your heart broken by a few bitches that look like Rachel Maddow, and suddenly you're off Rachel Maddow. Suddenly you don't even want to watch MSNBC anymore.
Or you're in deeper. You're like, I'm going to find me a Rachel Maddow that loves me.
No, I went on that for many years. I'm good now. I'm all right now.
Okay. So, rock and roller skate.
Yes.
Let's talk about rock and roller skate.
Yes.
So, if people who are listening haven't figured it out yet, it is a place where you listen to rock music and roller skate.
Yes.
Not sure how they came up with the name, but...
Right. Genius. It's marketing. You just can't get into that marketing brain. You know what I mean? No, so it's not just that you listen to music. So they had like separate rooms, right? The main room was like this big space, and the main room, when you first get upstairs and go in, it was a big room where there was a cage in the middle, and that's where the bands would play. So the bands would play in a cage, and you'd skate all around them. And then there was the room where you got drinks, right? You got like really, it was all very like, very ratchet. Like somebody would go to the corner store, buy drinks, and then charge extra for them. You know what I mean? And you could smoke inside. It was a different time, right? Like I was literally smoking, oh my God, smoking fucking Camels in my little strawberry dress, fucking watching it was so dope. And then there was another room, right? Because the band wouldn't be playing all the time, but there was another room where it was like old-timey jukeboxes that the music was like all cool shit. It was like Serge Gainsbourg. It was like Stereo Lab. Like it was like that type of shit, you know? And then there'd be like random like 60s French music, right? It was that kind of vibe, and there was a bunch of them. And old arcade games, like 80s arcade games.
Oh, amazing.
It was so dope. And then there was another room that was just skating, no bands, no nothing. But it was like a smaller room. And it was just skating, and it was like lights. It was like these weird, like cheap, like Christmas lights and shit. And that's where you would skate, and people would just make out. That's where you just make out. It was so cool. It was so chill. It was something that could never exist today. Like, you really could never have this today. It was just about creating a cool space.
And it probably shouldn't have existed then.
Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. It was pretty stupid. It was pretty dangerous as well. It was hot as fuck. There was no air conditioning. There was no ventilation, or very little ventilation. If I don't remember any, like, windows or anything in there. Like, it was hot as balls. You'd be stinking. And like the hipsters back then did not shower, and they did not use washcloths. I know that for a fact. So like it was rank in there. Oh my God. But it was dope. I don't know. And it was cigarette smoke. It was just cigarette smoke and fucking hipster sweat and like old thrift store clothes, unwashed thrift store clothes. Like it just
mothballs. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting a good idea of this now.
It was rough.
So let me ask, you said that you went there on dates.
Yes.
Do you remember the very first time you ever went to Rock and Roller Skate? And which Rachel Maddow impersonator did you go with?
Okay, I don't think I went there the first time on a date. I think a bunch of people dragged me there the first time. Mm-hmm. So I had friends from school who started like doing like a summer program at Pratt and stuff like that. And they knew all the cool shit. And I used to just like tag along. But then once I learned the cool shit, I would impress bitches with it. You know what I mean? I do remember the first date I brought there was a girl that went to SVA.
What's SVA?
School of Visual Arts.
Okay.
And it was a girl that I lied about my age. She looked exactly like Rachel Maddow. That was my thing. And I took her to a few places, but Rock and Roller Skate was the coolest place where I took her that, like, got me kind of far.
Oh.
Yeah.
And is this because you can do all fancy tricks with roller skates?
No, not at all. I'm terrible with roller skates. In fact, I think that was part of the thing, right? Like, being, like, shakily on roller skates and, like, high and drunk. There was, like, a vulnerability there. You could be, like, you know what I mean? It was very easy to...
it just fell into your arms. Now we're going to have to snog.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Shit like that used to work for me back then. I never had to, like, have game, right? Like, never once. For sure. I definitely made out with some boys at Rock and Roller Skate, I think. Some, like...
Why would you do that?
Like, this was the era of boys kissing, too. Like, do you remember this era? Where skinny boys would just make out?
I mean... I'm probably not the right person to ask this question. I go to lots of places where men make out with each other.
But it wasn't like, I don't know, there was a time where boys would make out to impress girls. And that was like,
oh, that seems strange.
I don't know if it was fully to impress girls, but that was the whatever. And like, you know, everybody would make out. So I definitely made out with some boys who then made out and like on roller skates. It's just fun, sexy, exciting shit. Especially if you're fucking 16, 17. Like that's like it gets extremely exciting if you're doing that, you know. It was a sexy vibe. Like it was a fun, sexy vibe.
So it's probably not the right time for me to ask this since you've just said it was a fun, sexy vibe. But you've brought up a few times that at this time you were very depressed and rock and roller skate was a bit of a reprieve.
Yes.
What was going on?
I mean, okay, the reason why I left boarding school is because I was basically just, like, being bullied by this white boy who used to, like, draw pictures of me hanging and leave it around the school. I know. It was weird. And the administration did not care because I was a scholarship kid. They were like, you can leave. It'll be cheaper. And so it just, like, there was no support for me. And it wasn't like my home life was very good and stable. And I had depression and I wasn't properly medicated. I definitely wasn't medicated. Or if I was medicated, it was like the beginnings of something that wasn't. I have very treatment-resistant depression. It took many, many years to find a medication combination that would get me out of bed. And that was not happening at the time. So, like, things that could get me out of bed, that could get me out of the house, like the anxiety was also starting to ramp up really bad. Those things, like, that was very precious to me. Those were very precious things to me because very few things could force me out of my little hole, you know, still to this day. But, yeah.
And so, like, sorry, I'm picking at a scab now. The bullying started at school. You left the school because of that bullying, but the depression had started by then.
It wasn't like school was all bad. I still have friends from boarding school that, like, are still my friends, right? And so, but I had to leave them for my own safety. Like, at the time, I was, like, scared that he was going to show up with a gun and, like, you know what I mean? Like, it was Massachusetts. Like, he was a day student. So he would go home every day. And so, like, I was terrified that he was going to show up to school and fucking kill me. Because that's what he would literally, he drew maps, like, of my of my neighborhood in Bed-Stuy. Because we used to have a directory book with everybody's address in it. So he, like, went on Google Maps, I guess, and, like, redrew maps of me and of my neighborhood and, like, bombs going into it. And he'd also, like, the year before, he was also terrorizing me and another friend of mine, and she'd left. She left sophomore year. We're still friends to this day, but, like, she was gone. I had friends that I loved very much, but, like, leaving wasn't, I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay. But I didn't have any protections. Like, you don't think about kids that go to these boarding schools. Like, they have no rights. They have no protection. The people who are charged with taking care of them are being paid by the school. So if the school doesn't prioritize this kid's safety, you're fucked. You're on your own. And I was on my own. Yeah. I was a little black girl from Bed-Stuy in an almost all-white boarding school in Natick, Massachusetts. Like, there was no protection for me. There was no, people tried, you know, people's parents tried to help out and stuff like that. I would stay at people's houses and stuff. But, like, that's not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So I had no choice. I had to leave. You know what I mean? So it was depressing. It was horrible. I felt like I had something taken from me. And I worked really hard to get into that school.
Yeah.
On scholarship.
It's the injustice of it as well, isn't it? That just is so hard to process.
And I'm also somebody, like, even small injustices drive me fucking nuts, right?
Yeah.
So this was, there was nothing I had no power. You know what I mean? Like, it drove me even further, like, down, like, a mental health hole, you know?
And it's so shit that you go to school when you're forming. Like, you should go to school when you're an adult and you can be like, yeah, fuck yous all. But, like, you're going when you're, like, the most vulnerable and it's the most traumatic thing that you can ever do.
It's not school. It's childhood. Sorry. It's not school.
Oh, okay.
It's childhood. Childhood is the most vulnerable part of your life. And people don't think about how vulnerable people who are like, oh, I fucking hate kids. Kids have no rights and no power. And when you're a teenager, you are now cognizant of how little power and rights you have. And if the adults around you are not, because adults are just people, right? It's just, and if the adults around you aren't in their right mind or don't understand how to do, you're fucked. You're on your own. It's terrifying. It's the most terrifying time it was the most terrifying time of my life, I would say, childhood, for sure. So like any predicament you put kids in is going to be fraught with abuse, is going to be fraught with all these things, because people who abuse and people who are cruel, they're going to be cruel to the people who it's easiest to be cruel to. And a poor black kid is easy to be fucking cruel to.
Yeah, yeah. When you realize that you don't have the power, you find ways to exert power. And that's finding someone who has less power.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's why kids are monsters sometimes to one another. Like, kids are like, what I learned when I was teaching English, I taught English in Asia, in Vietnam. And what I learned while teaching English was that kids have the capacity for the best and the worst in the same hour. Like, you can see a kid and they can say something so beautiful and wise and life-changing and sweet, or they can share with their friends, and you're like, oh. And then that's like 30 minutes later, you'll watch them try to pluck a kid's eye out. Like, they have the capacity for both. So, like, it depends on what you nurture. I think it depends a lot on what you nurture in children. Like, if you reward them for the violence, like, maybe they'll be more, but they'll still do it. I'm telling you, there's so many times I was if I had a camera in this class and put this on World Star, like, these are the greatest. Like, you could set up child fights in Dubai and they would get bloody. I'm saying, like, these kids.
Are you developing a side hustle as we speak?
I mean, a little bit. That's my retirement plan, honestly. Toddler fights. Toddler fights in Dubai. Let's do it. Rumble on the Jungle Gym.
Yeah, I can see a market for that. Yeah. So, okay, so the short of it is that it was a pretty rough time, and rock and roller skate was one of the things that helped make it more tolerable.
Oh my God. Fun. I'm not even saying more tolerable. I'm saying, like, this is another thing, like, back then, like, I could have fun even when I was actively, like, now you're like, damn, my bills, like, at the time, like, even if things are fine, you're still thinking about all the shit that you got to do.
Yeah.
At the time, I was kind of able to live in the moment a bit sometimes, like, in a way that I don't know if I'm able to now, right? Like,
and do you think that's an age thing, or do you think that's a gift of depression?
Ooh, I didn't think it was either. I just thought it was like, I didn't have bills. You ain't got no bills. Like, there's something freeing about not having no bills. But the gift of depression thing, I think there is an element of that. Because I always say, like, if I experience joy, I, like, want to drink it in, because one of my symptoms is, like, anhedonia, where I, like, literally cannot feel pleasure. Like, things are happening that are good, and I can't feel if there's, like, a block. There's, like, a screen there, right? So when I can feel it, like, I'm feeling the shit out of that shit. You know what I mean? Because I don't know when it's going to go away. But also there's the element of, like, when I'm feeling the screen, the anhedonia, I know this is also going to pass eventually. I don't know when, but it will. And I can remember I will have the ability to feel joy again eventually.
So how does that work then? So it's just sometimes you don't feel joy and sometimes you do.
Yeah, sometimes, like there's always a level of depression, like, sitting, right? There's always, I'm never, like, not depressed, right? But sometimes it gets to either a level or a type or a thing where there's just, like, a screen between me and joy, but also a screen between me and, like, everything. I'm in a literal glass case of emotion. Good things are happening. People are being kind to me. You're being hugged and loved. And you just can't. There's something between feeling it and experiencing it that you can't get through. That is so horrible, and it's maddening. Like, when it first starts happening to you, you're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, It's just part of it.
And do you feel the need to be performative when that happens?
Always. Yes, you have to. You have to. And which is hard. It's so exhausting. It's extremely exhausting. I can only do it for a short amount of time. And then I have to like go back to my sad hole. You know what I mean? Like it's exhausting because people don't understand that. If you don't respond to people's love, they don't want to talk to you anymore. You know what I mean? And I get that.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
I get that. People don't want to waste energy and love on somebody who can't feel it, right? So you have to acknowledge it and appreciate it, even if you're performing it, because you can't feel it, even if you can't really feel it. But once you understand, I think a lot of what helped my depression is living with my depression for a long time, right? Because a lot of what not heals depression or makes it more manageable. What makes it more manageable is knowing and understanding what is happening because it's happened before a few times.
Yeah.
Right? But when you don't understand it, you just feel crazy. You just feel crazy. You know what I mean? You just don't feel a part of the world, right? When people are trying to give you love and you can't feel it, it further isolates you.
Yeah.
You know, it just makes it worse. It just makes it worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But, okay, and so we were talking about the gift of depression. So when you do feel it, you just want to soak it in. You just want to mop it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you also need to remember this feeling for when the next time comes around that you can't feel it. Because that you'll go straight from I'm not feeling any pleasure to let's check out real quick. But if you can be like, nope, step back from the ledge, you will feel pleasure again. Okay, let's just relax. You just have to get through this bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like when I was younger and I'd never like been diagnosed with depression or anything, but I had times in my life when it was just everything was hard. But those were the times when going out and clubbing and like being in the moment, that's when it was just all so much more heightened and exciting.
Yes, because this is the thing. When you're like that, sometimes the thing that pierces through had to be an experience so wild and crazy and beautiful that it smashes through the glass. And that's what those things were for. That's what those crazy parties, I remember there used to be secret parties where like they would email you, you'd show up to like a random bridge or whatever, and there'd be a bunch of people there and you'd have a party, right? That's some type of shit I'm not doing now. But like at the time, that was the type of shit that I craved because when I did it, I was able to feel a different type of joy. It like kind of shocked me out of a bit of my depression. And it was crazy and illegal. It was illegal. Fully illegal. fully illegal. Like we would be running from cops. But that kind of like stuff would, at the time, like that would shake me, you know, out of it. And then when that stopped being able to get me out of it, like I knew it was like...
That was it.
I needed to adjust.
Can I just quickly change the subject?
Yeah.
So the rave culture in the UK was really big, like in the late 80s and the early 90s.
Yes, Happy Mondays, all that stuff.
Yeah. And it just like blows my mind that in order to find out where that night's rave was, people would go to a pub or stand outside a public payphone and wait for the organizer to ring that phone so that they could pick it up and be like, we're in this field with 3 cows, come here. And like that was how you got around. It's just...
That's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, I'm talking about an email like it's, you know what I mean? I can't imagine. That is so cool. That's the type, I don't know. I think that's kind of dope. Like, that's more dope than, like, the other stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah.
Than being on a mailing list.
What if you're like me and you get anxious and nervous and the phone rings and you pick it up and then you accidentally hang it up and then they never ring you back? Like, what happens then?
Then you ruin the party for several people and now everyone's mad at you. That's part of the fun. Or you pick it up and you hear it and everyone's like, what are you saying? You're like, oh shit, I forgot.
It's definitely a field. I know that much. Yeah.
Yes.
That would definitely happen to me. Okay. And so, do you remember how rock and roller skate ended?
I don't. It just didn't. You used to check. There was a website. There was a website, and it was the website for the warehouse space. Fuck. I don't remember what it's called. But there was a website you should check for whenever the next rock and roller skate would be. And you would check it like all the time. They just stopped fucking updating it, and they just stopped having them. I don't know. I don't really know what happened. It just stopped happening.
Oh, so there was no big party or anything to say, we're not doing this anymore?
I don't remember any last say goodbye to rock and roller skate thing. I think they got shut down, honestly, which possibly for the best. It was definitely a fire hazard. A lot of the memories that I have, like me and my friends will be talking, like, remember we went to, there was another space called Rubala. We used to go to Rubala. It was so dope. It was like all this paper art in an enclosed space and fire. And it was like, wait, why were we there? That was not a good idea. Like a lot of the places that I have my cherished memories were fire hazards. Were very fire hazards. So,
there's not really much point leaving the house unless there's risk of fire,
unless you might die. Yeah, I don't remember a last rock and roller skate hurrah. I remember they just stopped saying there's going to be a new party. You know what I mean? Maybe it went further underground, but I don't, No, I don't remember.
Okay, so you don't remember it ending, or you don't remember the last hurrah or your last time there.
No.
But do you know what that night taught you about yourself?
I'm more adventurous than I thought I was. I was always a kid that was scared of shit. I think rock and roller skate was one of those examples of me being reckless in a way that could only exist in a certain amount of time.
And really, really quickly, before you finish this question, did anyone ever break an ankle there?
Of course, all the time, all the time. So the band would stop playing. That was a thing.
Oh,
but we didn't make a thing about it. Go fucking hobble your ass outside. Don't call the cops. What are you, stupid? All the time. Oh my God, people face planted, people bled all the time. People lost teeth. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Oh, teeth. Oh.
Yeah. You have drunk teenagers roller skating in a fucking... People would smash into the cage and shit. Of course. That was just part of it. But yes, I fell many times. So many. I scraped my whole fucking leg up. Are you kidding me? I'd be in dresses, drunk, holding a beer. Just a potentially jagged glass and rolls. Just wheels. Just stupid shit. That was part of it.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna sit here and process that while you continue answering the question about what it taught you about yourself.
The recklessness, that was very fun. I mean, it made me feel so cool. That's really what it was. I felt cool at a time where some days I didn't want to be alive, right? I felt cooler. I felt cool as shit. Smoking a fucking Camel, a Turkish Gold, or a Clove, and drinking a beer that I hated. I hate beer. I felt cool as shit. I felt like I was in a fucking indie movie, right? And I was the one black girl there, you know what I mean? So not really. They were kids would, especially the Williamsburg kids, a lot of the black and Puerto Rican Bushwick kids would show up and they'd skate and they'd hang out, and that was cool. So it was weirdly diverse for an event like that. It was just the coolest I've ever felt in my fucking life. You know what I mean? And you hold on to that because now I'm not so cool. But I just can't afford to be cool. I got too much going on, right? I don't have time to be cool. Fuck you. I like what I like, but that memory of cool sustains me. It still sustains me to this day, I mean, yeah, no, I think, and also it taught me how to finger. I mean, I'm gonna be real.
Oh, really?
Yes!
So you didn't just take to it like a duck to water?
No, there was a learning curve. There's definitely a learning curve. But like, I was like,
Why is that? Because it's from a different angle.
no, it's because you don't know what every girl likes and you just assume
Oh, okay.
that, you either assume that it's just like porn or you assume that she's going to like what you like. You know what I mean? And so like, especially not to get too graphic, but I never like to go inside too much for myself. So I assumed everybody else was like that.
Oh, okay.
And that's not true. There's a technique. You know what I mean? There's a few different techniques. And that kind of learning to listen. Learning to listen in a very loud room surrounded by people. That's a gift that sticks with you. Oh, I miss it. I miss Rock and Roll Skate. Like, just talking about it, like, remembering it is, I miss that shit. Fuck, I miss that shit.
So, okay. So this is my final question for you today.
Okay.
So if you could go back in time and have a conversation with Sheria at that point, like the first night she went there, you get an opportunity to give her some advice. She's tagging along with her friends who are much cooler than her. She's tying up some shoelaces on roller skates. She's getting ready to go out on the floor. What would you say?
Bitch, take pictures. I wish I had pictures. Take pictures. Take lots of pictures. Save those pictures. And wow, I don't know. I would say like take pictures, enjoy this, and like also don't worry. Trust me, I know to all information to the contrary, you're going to be okay. I know it doesn't make sense, but you're going to be okay. Like, that's what I would say. So that she could actually enjoy herself a little bit more. You know what I mean? So there was less work to get to enjoy herself. You know what I mean?
Do you have any memories from rock and roller skate or maybe clubbing from your own scene that you want to share? Well, if you do, I want you to get in touch. So put down whatever. Oh no, you're not really holding this, are you? You're just listening to it in your ears. Well, anyway, go online, find my website, lostspacespodcast.com, find the section Share a Lost Space, and then tell me about that lost space and why it was important to you. I want to know all the details. And if that's a bit of a step too much and you're not really ready to commit to that, or you just want to talk to me about today's episode, why not reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, where I can be found at Lost Spaces Pod. Whilst you're looking online at this computer that I've just commanded you to magic up out of thin air, why not find out more about Sheria by listening to her podcast, Semi-Woke, which is a show where Sheria brainwashes her co-host Pranav with one woke concept a week with the ultimate end goal of turning him gay. I mean, what's not to love about that concept? Or you can follow her on Instagram at Sheria Mattis Comedy, or on Twitter, X, whatever it is you refer to it as now, at Sheria Did That. And the links for all of these things are in the show notes for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate if you took the time to subscribe, leave a review on your podcast platform of choice, or just tell other people who you think might be interested in giving it a little listen too. My name's Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces.